Knowing that something's gone wrong is a value or attribute of logs and metrics. Being able to respond or do something about it is a critical part of any job and responding to those actions. And this is where alerts are going to be a critical part of your overall solution. My name is Bob Tickleman. I'm excited to be your guide to understanding alerts inside of Azure Monitor. The alerting system has a wide range of listening capabilities for signals that you can then define a threshold for, and they're breaking this up, so we have to understand everything about Azure, what it monitors on, and then we have to create this thing called an alert rule that is going to identify, listen for this signal, and if it exceeds this threshold, this is what I want to do, and what I want to do becomes the action group or set of very simple activities or as complex as you need them to be. Let's get into this. So an alert follows a very prescriptive set of activities. In the bottom left-hand corner is where we collect our information. Regardless of where it comes from or what kind of information, it becomes the basis of which we can then listen to the term called a signal. So we populate the alerting tool with this information so that it listens for these signals based around a scope, which you see on the far left-hand side of that alert rule. So you set an alert to listen for a signal or signals. Once the threshold has been triggered, it fires the alert. Now the alert will have severity values, and you'll see this when I configure one, as well as a status. Let's say it gets fired, and I'm going to go to an example of disk. When my disk gets so full, I want to be notified so that I can get new disks or more space for it. It fires at a specific period of time, but maybe I'm checking for that value every minute. I get an email, I'm busy in a meeting, going to be in the email for the meeting for an hour. Do I think that it's going to run out of space in the next hour? Probably not. But I don't want to be receiving an email every minute for the next hour or until I get it resolved. So what we can do is set attributes to say, when does that trigger get reset to be able to be fired again? And so this whole complex process is part of the Azure Monitoring Alert system that we have available for us to work with. Once it creates the alert, it processes the rule. That's that rule. It'd say, have I already been fired? And have I been responded to yet? Maybe part of the rule processing says, hey, I've been fired. I sent the message to Bob. I've waited 30 minutes. I haven't heard from him, just indicating maybe he's going to take care of it, but I just want to get some response. And if he hasn't, I'm going to then maybe escalate this and then fire off something else to maybe his manager or another support person. So once the firing has taken place, it processes it, and it calls the action group, which is the set of activities, simple or complex, that you want as response to the alert being triggered. Once the action has been triggered, it can now invoke a set of activities, and when complete, it would typically come back, mark it as completed, then setting the trigger ready to be fired again next time that it exceeds the threshold values. So that's kind of the simple process, and we'll go in and take a look at building one of these. You have the ability to create the alerts in the graphical interface. They can be done through command line shells, but you have a central repository to have all of your alerts, and we'll get in and take a look at this. When you create an action group, it's a simple process or as complex as you're working with. So we have a notification center that allows you to select from sending emails to specific roles or providing a wide variety of other type of messaging, whether it be SMS, whether it be push or voice messaging that can be sent. And you can continue to add to a list. So it's, I want to email this person, email this person, email this group. I'm going to text this person. So it can be quite complex you're dealing with. We then have a wide variety of other actions that you can also do in addition to notifying things. We have automation runbooks, which is an Azure service. We're not going to talk about it, but a runbook is a sequence of activities that you can perform, and they can be very simple. They can include things like Azure Functions. We have Azure Functions by themselves. We have Event Hub actions. We can interact with your ITSM systems. We also have a logic app, which has a branching logic capability, which is a low-code, no-code process that you could use to respond to an action. And as well as we have a variety of webhooks to interact with third-party solutions. As I said in an example earlier, you could actually notify your ticketing system to generate a ticket, to get the ticket response, to put it in an email, to send to somebody that a ticket has been generated. This is the ticket number. I need you to take some action on it. So that is an example of an action group. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at alerts and create one and show you some of the other monitoring services that are available. And specifically, I want to show you a free one that's available in Azure Advisor. Azure Advisor is a free tool made available inside of the portal that, against the free 90 days worth of data that we keep by default in Azure, measures it against the 5 critical areas that are defined in the well-architected framework and the cloud adoption framework. They take Microsoft recommendations across all the telemetry information that we collect, and we monitor it for cost, security, reliability, operational excellence, and performance. And based around those Microsoft baselines, we give you a report that comes back and identifies specific issues, things that are compliant, not compliant, that are warning messages. So this is all potentially part of that alerting system. So this is just an example that you can use to identify there's one high impact issue. What is it? We can drill through and we can see enable trusted launch foundations is excellent, and modern security for, so what is it? What device is working with it or triggering it? I can see it was the VM 01-prod on subscription 1 that caused that issue. So it's a great way to get this information. It's not alerting me, but it's putting it up in a report. Azure Monitor, as the utility that pulls all this information together, has a number of components that you want to take a look at throughout the blades. We get a series of insights from applications, virtual machines, storage accounts, containers, networks. So a lot of those Azure resources are going to take that information. Now you can create a log analytics workbook and hook it up to this, but I'm just showing you some of the built-in tools that we have. They've got some built-in dashboards that we can take a look at. This will be populating, that is going to cover the areas that I also showed you in Azure Advisor. But I want to get into the alerts. So I'm going to create an action group that's going to have a set of activities of a mail notification as well as some actions I want it to take. So what is the resource group I want to put it in? I'm going to email Bob. The notification is to send an email to ROBDICH. The actions that I want to take, and there's that list of actions, whether they be runbooks, Azure functions, event hubs. I can get into an Azure function to shut down the service possibly. What is the name's going to be, the identity that might go with it. I'm not going to create anything here, so I'm actually just going to cancel that out. Delete this one. So I've got an action group of notifying Bob and potentially other actions. I now want to create an alert rule that says, based at these different scopes, so I can come to the different subscriptions that I have. I can come down into the resource group, and I want to know when this CPU of standalone VM has a condition where CPU utilization on an average is greater than 80%. And do I want to use an existing action group? I'm going to use the one that I already created. There's the one for email Bob. Next. This is where I can set up some of the characteristics, the severity, high, medium, low, critical. So I can actually just set it into an error. The alert action name, I'm not going to have to create that. And I will now get an email anytime that gets over 80%. Now, you saw what I did here is I went to the alert system and I found the scope. I could have done this another way by going to the resource specifically, So what I'm going to do is come into standalone. I could have come in under monitoring. I could have come under alerts. And I could have created a rule and alert, but it would have now done it specifically. I don't have to pick the scope because that's already been picked because it's done from that virtual machine, and then I can look for those values. So where you do it, you could go to the object and have it report back in, or you go to alerts and then pick the scope of objects and then have it be put in. So either way, you end up with that solution. Okay, let's return back to the lecture. We've seen how important it is for monitoring to identify how well our systems are performing, and then being able to respond to them in an automated fashion, partly or fully, either including humans or not. We could build the conditions to make sure that we have immediate responses to the different conditions that we've identified that might need some care and attention. So adding this to your overall monitoring solution and creating an alert system to make sure that appropriate responses are being taken in a timely manner. Thanks for joining us for this session. To continue your learning, watch other videos in the course or explore more on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.